पीडियाट्रिक की
पीडियाट्रिक्स का क्या सर, आज एक एक्चुअली में गेट टुगेदर है, फैमिली गेट टुगेदर है।
किसका?
हमारा एक एरिया है पूरा,
अच्छा।
नॉर्थ ऑलमोस्ट साउथ जयपुर की तरफ।
अरे तो इनको मालूम नहीं था क्या?
वो मैंने बोला था कि
हाँ।
संडे को, आज सुबह मॉर्निंग में हमारे गेस्ट्रोएंटरोलॉजिस्ट हैं डॉक्टर ललित, उन्होंने सीलिएक डिजीज पे अपने
ललित वर्मा।
ललित बराड़िया।
ललित बराड़िया। अच्छा अच्छा।
तो
अडल्ट
नहीं नहीं,
पीडियाट्रिक। हाँ।
पीडियाट्रिक्स तो सीलिएक डिजीज वो
तो
5 o'clock खत्म हुआ है।
अरे तो क्लब कर देते थे दोनों,
मैंने इनको यही बोला था, मैंने कहा कि यार आप है ना,
इसको सीएम बना देते थे। हाँ। मैं तो आ गया था, दोपहर में ले लेते थे।
वो क्या है,
हाँ।
इनको ये
चलो ठीक है, कोई
नहीं
बात
सर,
नहीं।
फिर भी कोशिश है
हाँ
40
हाँ, चलेगा, ठीक है, आराम से बैठिए, आप बैठिए आराम से, नो इश्यूज। हाँ। ये आगे की लाइट कम होगी क्या?
और कम।
हाँ, मतलब वो एकदम कुछ डल दिखता है ना।
इतनी कम करना
डिम कर दो, डिम। हाँ, बीच वाली बंद कर दो, एक आधी खाली लाइट चालू रखो ना। ये एक आधी लाइट चालू है साइड की, ये जो बीच की है ना उसको बंद कर दो, अगर हो सकता है तो। देखो करके देखो।
सर, रुच पार्टी का वाला ज़्यादा है।
यस, नेक्स्ट सैटरडे आई एम गोइंग।
ठीक है सर।
हाँ भाई, बढ़िया, बस परफेक्ट हो गया, एकदम अच्छा किया। हेलो।
Dr. Sanjeev
यस,
Gupta,
हाउ आर यू?
thank you so much
अरे
for
एनी
your
टाइम।
presence. This is little token from
अरे
ये जयपुर की गजब है,
ओ
कमाल
यार,
का है।
सो नाइस ऑफ यू, थैंक
आपको
यू।
जब भी मैं फोन करता हूँ या मैसेज करता हूँ, तो you always respond in
एनी
within minutes,
टाइम,
sir.
एनी
Within
टाइम,
minutes.
एनी टाइम, मोस्ट
And
वेलकम।
I feel so reassured कि आपकी जो experience और expertise है वो
अरे
बहुत
वाह,
है सर।
सो नाइस ऑफ
मैंने
यू।
कहा सर आप आ जा रहे हो तो
बिल्कुल, आज का मैसेज भी देखा मैंने आपका।
बिल्कुल सर,
थैंक यू जी, थैंक यू, थैंक यू, ओके, थैंक यू। चालू कर दो. मेरे पास है.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And
A commercial vaccine, but it had type 1 and 5, which together was 40% of IPD in developing countries, and they used that in South Africa. I'll come to that later. But they keep on adding more and more serotype, and ultimately they had their own 13 serotype vaccine. Prevnar 13, as we know, we've been using it for last so many years. Meantime, GSK was making its own vaccine. Now, when Prevnar 7 was being made, it was believed that 19F will cross protect against 19A, and 6B will cross protect against 6A. So 19A and 6A were not there in Prevnar 7. But after use of Prevnar 7, 6E disappeared along with the 7 serotype. So it was 7 plus 6A. But 19A actually went out of the hand. So say a peak of 100 per 100,000 incidence of IPD in children below the age of 2 years in USA before vaccination, it fell to 20 per 100,000, which means 80% drop. But from of this remaining 28 per 100,000, almost 50% was 19A. So 19A went up from 2 per 100,000 to 8 per 100,000, or a 4-fold rise. So it was known that 19A has to be in the vaccine. So that's how the next generation vaccine from Wyeth had 19A. It also had 1, 5, 7F, and they included type 3 because type 3 is a common reason to develop parapneumonia and empyema, which you know is a devastating disease in children. But before the data was available that you need to have 19 in the vaccine, GSK had already made its own 10-valent vaccine by just adding 157F, which was the important serotype from developing countries' point of view, and they continue to believe that 19A will go with 19F. So that's how you have this Synflorix 10-valent vaccine from GSK. Now these both vaccines were part of the national program through Gavi funding, available to 72 countries at a throwaway price of $1 to $3 per dose, because the vaccine was heavily subsidized with donor agencies. But the sustainability of such program is only possible when a third world country makes vaccine. Remember, today 70 to 80% of measles containing vaccine comes from India, and that is because it makes the vaccine very cheap and cost effective. So Serum was chosen as the institute which will make a vaccine for the masses in the world, for the developing countries, so that they don't have to rely on the grants. The vaccine itself can be so less expensive from the manufacturer directly. So they took 10 common serotypes which are seen in the world. So it's a world vaccine, though made in India. We think pneumococcal is our vaccine. It's our vaccine, right? But it's actually at the best of WHO, Bill Gates Foundation, and so many other donor agencies. They took those 10 serotypes. And in that, type 4 and 18C were not as prevalent in the world, which may be there in India but not in some other parts. So they were dropped. Type 3 doesn't work for even Prevnar 13. Type 3 doesn't work even for MSD's 15-valent vaccine, which also is type 3. So type 3 was dropped. So that's how you had this 10-valent vaccine, but it has 6A and 19A. And then Biological E was making its own vaccine. So it made almost the same vaccine as Prevnar 13, knowing well that 6B cross protects 6A, so they did not include 6A. So there they are remaining 12 serotype, but they added 22F and 33F, which are the common serotypes seen in the remaining pneumococcal disease seen in the countries where Prevnar 13 or Synflorix is used in the national program. So any new generation vaccine has an advantage of building up on the legacy created by the predecessor of the previous successful vaccination program. So now the question, why you need 19A? So as I said, with use of Prevnar 7, 19A went out of the hand. So if you look at the non-vaccine serotype causing IPD post Synflorix, and you can see so many countries using Synflorix like Netherlands, Canada, to sometime Brazil, New Zealand, Chile, Finland, etc. You will see 19A is one of the commonest serotype in this countries. So that means GSK's 19F also did not cross protect 19A, as much as Prevnar 7 19F also did not cross protect 19A in USA. Now why that happens? If you look at the IgG response, you measure IgG by chemical methods, but you don't know whether that antibody is going to work to kill the organism. So if you want to really know the capacity for the antibody to kill, you have to do a functional assay, what is known as OPA, or opsonophagocytic assay. So how does that happen? You take serum of a vaccinated child, you add human complement, and you add the serotype that you are interested in, like say here 19A, and it will kill all 19A, then you dilute the serum, again you experiment, again everything is killed, you keep on diluting till you have 50% kill in the petri dish. So that is the titer which this vaccine has achieved. So if you look at IgG alone, in Prevnar 7 we did not have 19A, 19F led to 85% seroconvergence against 19A, and yet it did not work, is because those antibodies were not functional. So you look at the 19A OPA titers, OPA is the functional antibody titers, you can see with PCV7 it is a small 7 OPA titer, whereas with Prevnar 13 was 442 or 65-fold higher. Now look at the comparison of Prevnar 7 with Synflori, both don't have 19A, and you can see the titers are 4.5 and 8.6. So when a vaccine induces an antibody which is IgG, not necessarily that antibody is going to work. So better to see on the OPA titers when it comes to clinicians like you and me who are interested in not knowing what is the IgG response, but actually that's going to work and kill the organism to help the baby. So this is a classical example where there is good IgG response by a 19F against 19A, but it's not functional, so it does not lead to killing of the organism. Now that is in vitro what I showed you, that the titers are so high. But is there evidence that 19A vaccines actually work? So you can see the top blue, in blue are the countries using Prevnar 13. So Israel, US and UK, and the red is Synflorix using country, Chile, New Zealand and Finland, and this is 19A story, and you can see here that before, where is the pointer in this? Oh, sorry. Oh. Yes. Okay. So you can see here that, oh, it went blank. Which one? Achha, back side, okay, fine. So you can see here, this is 19A story. Israel, forget Israel, let's say USA. USA introduced PCV7, Prevnar 7 in 2000, 19A kept on going up. They introduced Prevnar 13, 19A disappears in 1 year. Same in UK, somewhere in 2004, PCV7 introduced, 19A goes up. They introduced Prevnar 13, 19A disappears. Look at Chile, New Zealand and Finland using Synflorix, all the 3 countries, 19A went up. So absolutely there was no advantage of using a non-19A containing vaccine. And not only in the vaccinated children, even as a part of the herd effect, you can see here, in USA, after the introduction of Prevnar 13, 19A disappeared from all age group above 5 years who are not vaccinated, whereas using Synflorix in all age group, the 19A went up. So there was no direct benefit, of course no indirect benefit with a vaccine which doesn't have 19A, whereas a vaccine with 19A, there is a massive direct and indirect benefit. And that's why WHO in its position paper says that if you have 19A disease burden in your country, you should have a vaccine which is 19A. It also talks about something 6C and 6A, and I'll come to the 6C and 6A when I discuss 6A, because this vaccine doesn't have 6A. So what's going to happen to 6A as far as this vaccine is concerned? And now we have not 1 but 3 vaccines. Prevnar 13 of course originally had, pneumococcal also has 19A, and now you have this biological E vaccine which also has 19A. Now why these 2 extra serotype? So first of all, you can see 22F and 33F as on today is around 2% of the serotypes seen even in India. So they are not as big as other serotype, but nonetheless they are there. They are there also in the carriage. You can see here 22F is there in children with carriage. So 22F and 33F are there. But more important, when you use either say Prevnar 7 or Synflorix or Prevnar 13, the vaccine serotype will disappear. Then from the remaining disease burden, what are the serotype is what you will target for the next generation vaccine. It makes sense. So look at GSK's vaccine. We already saw 19A was one of the major ones. The other 2 are 22F and 33F, no matter which country you look at. And again, using Prevnar 13, you don't see 19A because it has 19A, but again you see 22F and 33F as a common serotype. So this is the meta-analysis done on several countries using either Prevnar 7 or Prevnar 13 or Synflorix, and what is the remaining disease burden caused by 22F, 33F? 3.5 plus 3.5, almost 7%. So this is going to be the serotype for the future. So if you can include those serotype, and after you have say, now we have scaled up our PCV, we of course started with Prevnar 13 through Gavi funding. It was in few states. It was scaled up to 8 states, and then when Pneumocil came, that has become part of the national program. Now is available in all the states. So in next 5 years, we will have the same situation where the vaccine serotype would have disappeared, and some of these serotype will become prominent. And that's why 22F and 33 are there in this vaccine, because they are there in the carriage, they are in the IPD, they are an important serotype after the disease burden is reduced by PCV in the national program. They can lead to severe disease, meningitis, and they can become multi-drug resistant, so needing vancomycin to treat these patients. Now, how this vaccine is licensed? One thing is to have what serotype is there in the vaccine. Other thing, you have to show that the new vaccine has to be as good as the existing vaccine. So how do you do? As I said, Prevnar 7 underwent a double-blind randomized control trial which showed a huge efficacy. But now when Prevnar 7, after that Prevnar 13, Synflorix are part of the national program in most of the countries, no ethical committee will give you permission for a double-blind randomized control trial where you have a placebo. Even in our country now we have Pneumocil in the program, you can't have a placebo control efficacy trial. So and plus those efficacy trials are very difficult and laborious and expensive to do. So what WHO said is that even Prevnar 13 didn't undergo any double-blind randomized control trial. It was based on the immunological non-inferiority to Prevnar 7. So there is something known as immunobridging, which means we know Prevnar 7 had 98% efficacy against vaccine serotype. You make Synflorix, you compare with Prevnar 7 for the 7 common serotype. If it is immunologically non-inferior, you presume it will be having the same efficacy. You have Prevnar 13, you take the 7 common serotype, if it is similar, you presume it is going to have similar efficacy, and you also show that the extra serotype are immunogenic. So this is WHO's way of licensing new vaccine without necessarily having a efficacy trial. So now see how fast vaccines are coming in the reality. Since COVID time we have heard, 2019 December COVID was reported to WHO, 2020 you know lockdown started from February, March, we had a massive outbreak, then 21 was Delta, vaccines became available. 2 years vaccine came in the market. So you can imagine how fast. Same way you can see here, initially it was always 15-20 years before a vaccine is conceptualized and becomes a reality. Here you can see in 2017 phase 1 adult study is done on some 20 subjects, and within 5 years market authorization is given to this vaccine. So every vaccine is now becoming faster and faster than before. I will only show you the phase 3 pivotal trial. Pivotal trial is the one which leads to licensing. It's a very rigorous trial. The DCGI, the Drug Control General of India, necessitates a trial in India for any new vaccine that comes. The reason why mRNA vaccine never came in India is because Pfizer and Moderna both were not ready to do trials in India. So they were not given license. Dengavax, which was the dengue vaccine from Sanofi, it was not licensed in India because they had not done any study in India. Like that, there are any vaccine which comes to India now has to have a phase 3 trial in country. So much so that if you change formulation, you change your manufacturing site, then also you need another small study. So we are happy that this is happening, because otherwise 1/7 of the world population stays in India, and yet all the vaccines were thrust upon us that as if that they are going to work. Fortunately they all worked, but it couldn't have worked. So it is important to study in India. So this is a study done on 1200 plus children, 6, 10 and 14 weeks, 3 dose primary without a booster. Because in the country the PCV is used as 3+0. So yeah, we are using 6 weeks, 14 weeks and 9 months. That's why the booster was not compulsory in this study. Same for Pneumocil. You might have heard me talking on Pneumocil in past. It was again 6, 10, 14, 3 primary without a booster. Of course, they had done a booster study outside in Gambia, This vaccine will have to do a booster study, so that a booster also can be then recommended. We'll come to that a little later. But coming back to this trial of immunological non-inferior, which led to licensing, 600 children received the biological E vaccine, 600 children received Prevnar 13. So first, safety. You can see here the blue bar is the new vaccine, the green bar is the Prevnar 13. No matter whether you look at local side effect like swelling, redness, pain, or you look at the systemic side effect like vomiting, diarrhea, fever, they are similarly distributed within the two vaccines. So this vaccine is as safe as the Prevnar 13. Now on immunological. So there are two ways, as I said, to look at immune response. One is IgG, which is the requirement of the licensing authority to allow license, but to us OPA is equally important. So how do you look at non-inferiority? And I'll just dwell little so that you understand. I'm sure all of you are senior practitioners. After 15-20 years of routine pediatric practice, you get bored, right? You want to know little more in research, how to read a paper, etc. So it will be good for you to attend sometime one research methodology talk, or maybe do a workshop, 2-3 hours workshop, so you understand what is this chi-square test, student t-test, p-values, etc., or what is non-numerical inferiority, what are confidence intervals. These words have become very horrible, but I am happy that DNB, I don't know about MD, but DNB has a compulsory one question on statistical analysis. So they have to, students have to now learn. So I'll just give an example. How do you do it? So first of all, you have to define what is immunologically non-inferiority you expect out of the study a priori. A priori means before you start the study. Because once you start study and you have little result, you may manipulate. That's not allowed. It's sealed that you will have to show this much immune response. So typically in PCV, what WHO says is that, first of all, looking at the seroconversion, which means how many children who are given the vaccine have more than 0.35 microgram per ml of IgG titers. So let's take example of serotype 1. The new vaccine, 90% children seroconverted, Prevnar 13 93% seroconverted, difference is 2.7%, minus 2.7%. Now you make 95% confidence interval of this value, so it could be as low as minus 5 or as high as 0.35. When you toss a coin, you know there is probability. So this lower bound confidence interval should not be below minus 10. Then immunological non-inferiority is proven. Like say here in type 3, 83.5 with new vaccine, 77 with Prevnar 7, plus 6.5, 2.08 to 10.85. If this is above 1, it means it is superior. So non-inferiority and superiority criteria are fixed before you start study. So you can see here all these confidence intervals are above minus 10. So for all the common serotype, non-inferiority criteria on IgG response was met with. Just to give an example, for pneumocil that was not true. 4 serotype actually did not meet the inferiority criteria, but on OPA titers they were as good, so vaccine was supposed to be as good as the Prevnar 13. Now for the remaining 2 serotype, 22F and 33F, now you can't compare apple with oranges, right? You are not going to have any response with Prevnar 13 for these 2 serotype. So WHO says no, you don't take 0 value, you take a serotype which is showing you the minimum seroconversion in your control vaccine, which is 77% here for type 3, you put here, and then it has to show non-inferiority. And again, that criteria is met with. So all 14 serotype on IgG response were found to be non-inferior to Prevnar 13. Now coming to titers, again, example, type 1, titer is 1.73 for B's vaccine, 2.6 for Prevnar 13, ratio is 0.7. Now again you take 95% confidence interval, so it could be as low as 0.67 or as high as 0.88. Now this lower bound confidence interval should be above 0.5, which means the new vaccine should have at least 50% of the titers as the existing vaccine. And you can see here again all these confidence intervals are higher than 0.5. So for all of them the criteria was met. Just to give an example, say for type 3, the ratio is 1.23 in favor of the new vaccine. Again the lower confidence interval is above 1, so this is actually superior response as compared to Prevnar 13. And same for 22F and 33F, you add the least titer which is 0.7 here, and again you show the ratio is superior than the existing vaccine. So that is what you expect. So both an IgG seroconversion and IgG GMC ratios, you have seen all serotypes are meeting the non-inferiority criteria. But as I said, we also need to look at OPA. So you can see here the OPA, the blue is the new vaccine, the red is the Prevnar 13. Again you can see here there is hardly any difference between the two for all the serotype, and the two extra serotype are having more than 95% OPA seroconversion, which is very reassuring. And again on titers, because there is no statistical significance attached to OPA by the licensing authority, you don't calculate these p values for these, neither for this or not for the titers, but just to compare, the titers should be very similar, and you can see here for all the serotype, the titers between new vaccine and the old vaccine is very similar for all the 14 serotype. So both on IgG seroconversion and titers and OPA seroconversion and titers, this vaccine was found to be immunologically non-inferior, including the two new serotype, where it was found to be superior compared to Prevnar 13. Now the question about cross protection or no cross protection, and that is about 6B and 6A. So our IAP immunization committee says that direct protection is always better than cross protection. I mean, makes sense obviously. So it's true also, like see Prevnar 7 did not have cross protection between 19F and 19A. GSK's vaccine also did not have cross protection between 19F and 19A. You have the HPV vaccine, Gardasil, and you have the bivalent vaccine from GSK Cervarix. Now it's not available, so you forget the name so fast. And it was supposed to have some cross protection in 31, 33, 45, but it was short-lived for 3 to 4 years. So 9-year-old girl takes Gardasil 4 or the GSK vaccine. By 11, 12, the cross protection is not there, and she is going to have sexual debut at 20, 25. That cross protection has no meaning. Same way typhoid vaccine don't cross protect paratyphoid. Influenza vaccine, little change in the same pandemic H1N1 and you need a new vaccine. So for many vaccines, the cross protection is not there. Does it apply to 6A? And I think that is the biggest answer as far as this vaccine is concerned, because if 6B is cross protecting the 6A, then this vaccine is Prevnar 13 plus 2 extra serotype. Makes sense, it gives value addition. So what will happen to 6A as far as this vaccine is concerned? The first piece of information that there is excellent cross protection by 6B against 6A by Prevnar 7 came within 4 years of use of the vaccine in USA. This is a paper by Dr. Cynthia Whitney's group in 2006 for data collected between 2001 and 4. So 2000 vaccine was introduced, next year onwards for the 4 years they collected data, and you can see here that the overall vaccine efficacy was around 77% against vaccine serotype, and against 6A also was 76%, very similar to the vaccine serotype. So this cross protecting vaccine serotype was as effective as the actual serotype in the vaccine. Let's come back to our countries using Prevnar 7 and Prevnar 13. Now again, now you have to be carefully seeing. This is 6A disease, not 19A, alright. USA introduced Prevnar 7 in 2000, and you can see 6A disappeared before Prevnar 13 came. UK introduced Prevnar 7 somewhere in 2004-05, 6A disappeared before Prevnar 13 came. Israel, same thing. Prevnar 7 introduced, disease disappeared before Prevnar 13 came. So these three countries showed that the 6A actually disappeared even before 13-valent vaccine was introduced. And again we saw this GSK using countries, we saw 19F and 22F and 33F as the existing remaining serotype, but you don't see 6A here, and that is because 6A is 100% cross protected by 6B. Now we have talked that both GSK's vaccine and Prevnar 7 we did not have 6A, and yet the 6A disease disappeared. Let's look at their OPA titers. So this is comparing Prevnar 7 and Prevnar 13. You can see Prevnar 13 induces 1200 OPA titer, PCV7 122, so that's like 10-fold lower titer by Prevnar 7 compared to Prevnar 13, because it doesn't have the vaccine, serotype in the vaccine. What about Synflorix? 70 times lower titer with Synflorix as compared to Prevnar 13, and yet both Prevnar 13 and Synflorix disappeared the 6A disease. When it comes to new vaccine, the titer are just 3-fold lower with this new vaccine compared to Prevnar 13. So if you have a vaccine with 70-fold lower titer yet having 100% cross protection against 6A, you assume that it will be even as good with this new vaccine. Now that's for the IPD. What about the non-invasive disease where you need more titers? So trial done in otitis media. So this is done in Finland. Finland has a very peculiar way of treating otitis media. Any child who is suspected to otitis media is seen by a pediatrician, otoscopy is done, he finds there is middle ear fluid, a needle is put, fluid is taken out, sent for culture. So they know exact etiology of every otitis media episode. So they did a study where they actually looked at children who had about 6 to 24 months old with otitis media, and a tympanocentesis done to see for the etiology. And what they found, the overall efficacy of the vaccine against vaccine serotype otitis media was 57%, and that against 6A also was 57%. So again, a very similar efficacy, making this serotype as good as a vaccine serotype. Israel, looking at 4 different time period. This is where Prevnar 7 is introduced in private market. This is where Prevnar becomes part of the public health. This is where the Prevnar 13 introduced in private market. This is where the Prevnar 13 becomes in the public health. And this is looking at all the 7 serotype plus 6A, and you can see they have disappeared with Prevnar 7 alone before Prevnar 13 came. So to the extent that Dr. Ron Dagan, this slide is given by Dr. Ron Dagan from Israel, he is a pioneer of pneumococcal disease in the world, and he always says Prevnar 7 is not Prevnar 7, is Prevnar 8, because it also acts as bull against 6A. And lastly, about the carriage. So this is a study done in France where 8 pediatric hospitals catering to 10% of the pediatric population in the France, they looked at children with otitis media who were 6 to 24 months old, and they took their nasopharyngeal swab for the carriage to see what is the serotype. And they had children who had received Prevnar 7 and children who had received Prevnar 13. So they could compare between these 2 vaccines. And you can see here, as far as 6A is concerned, there is no difference between children who had received either Prevnar 7 or Prevnar 13, which means even Prevnar 7 led to near eradication of 6A from the carriage. And that is why if the carriage goes, you have herd effect. So again you see the blue countries using Prevnar 7 and Prevnar 13 sequentially. In Israel, Prevnar 7 comes and there is a massive herd effect above 5 years before Prevnar 13 comes. Same in USA, 6A disappears in UK with Prevnar 7 before Prevnar 13 comes. So these are the studies which have shown that there is a good cross protection against IPD, against otitis media, against carriage, and also against the herd effect. And why this happens? Why that 6B cross protect 6A but 19F did not cross protect 19A? So this arbitrary 0.35 microgram per ml of the IgG response was made by WHO based on a scientific experiment. I mean, it's too complicated for you to understand. Just understand that 0.35 was taken as a common cutoff for all serotype. But that is not true. All serotype need different levels of antibody. So just to give an example here, for 6A, you need 0.16 microgram per ml of antibody, whereas for 19A, you need 1 microgram. That's almost 6 to 7-fold higher. That's why you see that you don't have cross protection for 19A, but you have 100% cross protection against 6A. So WHO position paper says that if you have 19A, then you need the vaccine, but if you have 6C, then you need 6A vaccine. Now what is the 6C? When initial studies were done, it was either 6A or 6B, but they realized that there is another serotype 6C which is emerging based on the PCR. So look at the type of data that America has. I mean, we don't like Americans, but you have to really understand their science is supreme. I mean, they rule the world in science. So they had kept every isolate of pneumococcus before any vaccination till now. So they re-looked at the 6A, 6B serotype with a PCR. They found that some of them are 6C. Now 6B cross protects 6A but not 6C. Whereas 6A cross protects 6C. So if you have a high disease burden with 6C, then you will necessarily have to have 6A disease. So what is the 6C burden in the community? So this is a study. 2000 Prevnar 7 came which didn't have to have 6A. 6C went up from 0.09 to 0.6 in children. Overall from 0.2 to 0.5. So anything less than 1 per 100,000 is actually a very small amount of disease. So far we don't have any data of 6C in our country. So till the time we don't have a problem of 6C, a vaccine like this will work because our problem is 6A and not 6C. If 6C becomes a major problem someday in the world, you will probably need a vaccine with 6A. And more valent vaccines are coming. You have MSD's 50 liter vaccine which is going to come soon. You have Aurobindo, going to market Turgene's vaccine, which is another 15-valent vaccine. That's going to come in the market. You have 20-valent vaccine from Pfizer, which is a reality in USA for adults and now also in children, is going to come probably in India because the studies are ongoing. And now biologically is working on a 23-valent vaccine, conjugated, not unconjugated, conjugated vaccine. So that will also come. So the race will continue. I will have to keep on coming here to update you on this vaccine knowledge. Now the basic question, can you use this vaccine for booster? Pneumocil doesn't have Indian data on 3+1. This vaccine is also not having 3+1. Pneumocil data in Gambia on 3+1. This vaccine has to generate data on 3+1. But there is a data in the toddlers. So children who had not received any vaccine between 1 to 2 years of age, randomized to receive Prevnar 13 or this new vaccine, 2 doses 8 weeks apart, and they looked at the seroconversion. You can see the seroconversion is the same between new vaccine and the Prevnar 13. So in toddlers it is going to work, but there is no continuity between primary to booster, and that type of data will have to be generated. So that is what is going to be generated by this phase 4 data, where they are going to have more than 2,500 children, 6 to 8 weeks, receiving 3 doses at 6, 10, 14, and then they will, some of them will receive another booster at 15 months. Enrollment of this will start, has already started, and I am sure in next 6 months to 9 months, this data should become available. Why am I saying is this? Because for pneumocil, IAP SCVIP has given a guidance that you can use it as 3+1 with a booster in the second year based on the Gambian data. So once this data comes, probably the same thing will happen even for this vaccine. Today you are going to give this vaccine to babies who are born. They are going to be needing booster only next year. Hopefully by then we will have a booster study even on this vaccine. So how will this vaccine compare for the serotype coverage for IPD in children? So the first is Prevnar 13, the red is pneumocil, the green is Synflorix, and the next blue is the bees vaccine. Now this is -3 because as I said -3 doesn't work for anyone, and this is -6A because this vaccine doesn't have 6A. And here you can see the serotype coverage looks very similar between Prevnar 13 and this new vaccine. But as I said, because 6B cross protects 6A 100%, you add the 6A, then it becomes this yellow, which is taller than Prevnar 13 for all the 4 data sets that we have. So this vaccine is as good as Prevnar 13 on serotype coverage with advantage of 2 more serotypes, 22F and 33F, which may become a major serotype when we start using any vaccine in the national program with more than 80-90% coverage for 4-5 years, and the vaccine serotype disappears. Just to conclude, this new vaccine has 19A, 22F and 33F and doesn't have 6A because there is cross protection by 6B. It has undergone important trials in India. It was found to be as immunogenic and safe as PCV13 with the benefit of 2 additional serotype. It has a toddler data, and very soon you will have this 2+1 and 3+1 data available, which will make it even easier to use this vaccine for booster. And most important, I think it's a made in India vaccine. And I am telling you, next 20 years in vaccine is going to be India's time. So far for 50 years we have been having imported vaccines which are expensive. Till the time we started making our own vaccines, they became cheaper. When Angerix B came, I was just started practice, I was with Dr. Lokeshwar, it was 800 rupees a dose, which in today's time will become 6,000 or 7,000 rupees a dose. Today that same hepatitis B vaccine is available for 35 rupees a dose, to the extent that no one wants to now market it because there is no cost. Same for Rota. When Rota came, Rotarix and Rotatec, they were more than 2,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees a dose. Today you have Rota for 200 and 300 rupees. Look at the COVID vaccine. Look at any other vaccine which India makes. Look at pneumocil. Look at this vaccine. So India is going, excuse me, don't make noise please. Hello? बाद में बात करो, अभी बात मत करो. So बहुत important चल रहा है इंडिया का भाई. So 200 crore doses of COVID vaccine used in India. 180 crore of them Covishield, 20 crore of them Covaxin, both made in India vaccine. We did not have to depend, and we were the first to give massive vaccination, and we curtailed COVID. Now you see there is no COVID-19. You still read in paper, Singapore has again said clampdown will be done, China is having problem, USA the perpetual has a problem, and so on and so forth. So India is going to rule. India is going to make now, HPV vaccine is already there, hepatitis A vaccine by biologically not the Chinese which they are marketing now, but their own vaccine will come. They will have some dengue vaccine is coming from Serum and Panacea. It's going to be one dose vaccine. It's going to be extremely important. What is there in Brazil, there's Benetton's vaccine is going to come to India in next 5 years, and you are going to have the recombinant BCG, RBCG, which may replace the current BCG. You already have vaccine against hepatitis E, you already have vaccine against so many other diseases. So India is the hub to manufacture. Malaria vaccine is not needed in India because only for falciparum malaria, not for Vivax. Our problem of malaria as such has curtailed down drastically since last so many years, and especially falciparum malaria. So we hardly see, but malaria belt in Africa is one where 8% of the mortality, 8% is because of malaria. 90% of them falciparum malaria. So malaria vaccine is there, and there are two malaria vaccine. One is made by GSK, which is not as good a vaccine, around 50% efficacy in the first 1 or 2 years, then falls to 30%. By third year, the efficacy becomes non-existent. But there's another US vaccine which is being made as a research vaccine, which has shown very promising 70% efficacy persisting for 3 or 4 years. So those type of vaccines will take over. So if we don't support our vaccine, then who will? So I think that's a very fervent appeal, and I am not a BJP follower. In fact, I am not a great Modi follower. I am a atypical political person that I am an anti-incumbent type of person. Anyone who comes in power, I think is not doing perfectly well. So we have this Chandrayaan. Everyone is very happy at 1/10 the cost, to the extent that the NASA said that why don't you sell your technology to us? I mean, that was real story that the NASA person says. This is no lesser than Chandrayaan, that we make our own vaccine. Thank you. Atmanirbhar.
So thank you, sir, for a wonderful talk. Can we have the lights on the stage? I know you must be having a lot of questions for Dr. Nitin, but we'll like to take all the questions in panel. So I would request our esteemed chairpersons to kindly come on the dais.
We can also take on any other vaccine.
Doctor, we will do so in the panel, sir. We have lot many questions for you. We will not spare you, sir, like this.
No problem.
Dr. Atul, Dr. Parmeshwari, madam, and Dr. Jeetam. So before the chairpersons take their seats, I have one question for you.
Yes, please. I'll come on that side. Yes.
So since you started your talk with a disclosure that you are one of the research advisors to many of the companies.
Yes.
And in your talk you said that when PCV 13 was launched, 6A incidents had already come down.
Correct.
By PCV.
Why they have the
then
6A?
why did you not advise the company not to add 6A and increase the cost?
Remember, Prevnar 13 came in 2010 in USA. It was in research for 5 years before that. Okay. Till then, we didn't have data about 6B, 6A cross protection to that extent. So they added it because they had bitter problem with 19F, not cross protecting 19A, and they had not added 19A. So they added 6A. Through their luck, 6C came up. So they had at least that advantage. If there is 6A, it will cross protect 6C. So why 6A is still continuing in the other vaccines is because it will cross protect 6C if at all whenever it comes.
So you mean to say when PCV 15 and PCV 20s are going to launch, we might see those vaccines without 6A?
No, they are all going to continue 6A. They are going to add more and more serotype. Other thing you should remember, you want to make a new vaccine. It can't be exactly the same serotype as one of the existing vaccine. That's why you'll see Pneumocil has dropped to added 6A, 19A. They have dropped 6A, added 22F, 33F. MSD has added this plus 22F, 33F. The Aurobindo vaccine is completely two different serotype. 20 is different, 24 is different. You cannot copy an existing vaccine. That is the reason why 6A is not there in the, if they had made 6A, it will become same as MSD's vaccine.
Why they have not actual technology, the same manufacturing, they can make the same vaccine?
No, copyright issues. Not a technique problem, copyright issues.
The cost of the new one?
This cost, someone from B can say, but I think the MRP is 3100 and the doctor's price is 1900, 1990.
Why is it that one serotype in a particular vaccine gives X amount of IgG response and the same serotype in another vaccine gives Y type of IgG response? When the serotype is same, why is the difference in the IgG response?
So like in which two studies? So if you have 19A, whether it's Prevnar 13 or this vaccine, the technology, the conjugation process is different. But Prevnar 13 in different studies, may also show 10-20% difference, because subjects are different, children weights are different, the immunology system is different. Plus see, all these titers are done in very few labs. In fact, there is only one laboratory in the world which does OPA study, and that's in UK. So there is a huge waiting queue for OPA titers to be done. So these are not absolute sacrosanct. That's why you'll always have that 10-20% difference.
Any comment from the chairperson, sir?
So you have explained so excellently, and we came to know in so detail. Thank you very much. We are really.
Sorry, those statistics might be boring for some people, but they give you the reason why, that one sentence, am I going to use the vaccine? So much goes behind that one sentence which you speak confidently. Sorry, sir.
Thank you, and we are enlightened, and it was a matter of fact presentation to the point with loads and loads of data supporting your speech. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir, and thank you, chairpersons. May I request Dr. M.L. Sharma, sir, to give a floral felicitation to Dr. Atul Shankar. M.L. Gupta, sir. M.L. Gupta ही बोला ना? Oh, I'm so sorry. It's M.L. Gupta, sir. I'm so sorry. नहीं सर. आजकल शर्मा जी का वो चल रहा है सर. Laal Sharma the new CM. और मेरा पड़ोसी है इसलिए कोई ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट है. Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Manish Ajmera, boss? He has left? Okay. Vivek Sharma, boss, to kindly felicitate Parmeshwari, madam.
नहीं, ठीक है, I'm comfortable. No.
And do we have Anuj here? Anuj? Yeah, may I request Anuj to give a floral felicitation to Dr. Jeetam? So thank you all. Thank you, chairperson, sirs and ma'am. So we now proceed for the most interesting part of today's gathering, the panel discussion. We have selected few questions from our side to be discussed on the panel, but you can ask your questions also. And I'm sure this is going to be a lot of interactive session. So please stick to your number of questions, and you can catch hold of sir during the lunch time during the dinner time as well. So I would request Sanjeev to kindly moderate the panel.
Thank you, Manish. I think most interesting part already done. And it is followed by the common question as in our office practice day in, day out. Now I will request, sir, please on the dais. And I also request today's panelist, Dr. Alok Gupta, sir, please come on the dais. And Dr. Ashish Agarwal, boss, please come on the dais. I think you all know 3 experts on vaccinology is here to give the answer of each and every query of already PCV, about the PCV, all the strain from the 7 to 14 and go on. I think as sir already mentioned about the 22, 23 and one more part we are interested in, as sir has already mentioned, he will come again and again to update our knowledge about the strain.
Sure.
So first question to you, sir, only.
Yes.
Regarding
Is the mic on? Can you?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay, fine. You can use this.
So, sir, as the government of India offer pneumococcal vaccine is 2:1.
Correct.
6, 14 and 9. And so we can also use the same schedule in our office practice, as it will save one dose cost.
Correct.
And
So
is the 3, as you already mentioned, the 3 dose, no booster, about the pneumocil in the Gambia and still in the B14.
Sure.
So what is the 3 plus 1 is better schedule as compared to 2 is 2 plus 1.
Correct. So all the manufacturers have 3 plus 1 as a schedule in their leaflet. Let's say Prevnar 13 Synflorix, Prevnar 7 in past. I'm sure in future these two vaccines when the data is out. Now what is the difference between 2 plus 1 and 3 plus 1? So UK is the first country to try this reduction in the number of doses for Hib vaccine. So they use 3 plus 0, they remove the booster. But within 2 to 3 years of that, they started seeing breakthrough Hib disease in 3 to 4-year-old children. So they realized that booster is important. So they gave booster, reintroduced booster, the disease disappeared. So when it came to Prevnar 7, they were smart enough to not remove the booster but remove one primary. And they gave the booster early. So they gave 2 months, 3 months and then 12 months as the third dose. And they succeeded. But remember when they gave 2 plus 1 after the second dose, that is in the third month, 1 month after the second dose, 2 vaccine serotypes 6B and 23F had less than 80% seroconversion. Okay. But because the coverage of the vaccine is so high and there is so much of massive herd effect that there will not be any breakthrough disease. So you can use it in public health where you have a very high serotype coverage, very high vaccine coverage. Okay. But you can't do it in your individual practice till the time the entire community has the high coverage for the vaccine serotype. So today you should not use it as 2 plus 1 in your private practice, you should use it only as 3 plus 1. Now 2 plus 1 which is used in government is not even 2 months, 3 months, 12 months as is used by UK. By the way, I must tell you here that 2004 to 2010 Prevnar 7 in UK and 2010 to 2023 Prevnar 13 in UK, the vaccine serotype have disappeared to the extent now they give only one primary and one booster. No. But that's after use after 23 years. Now coming to 6 weeks, 14 weeks and 9 months is a very typical schedule which was invented in South Africa. Yeah. So in South Africa, Professor Shabir Mahdi's group, they were using the 9-valent vaccine. I told you there was a Prevnar 7 plus type 1, type 5, not a commercial vaccine but an experimental vaccine before Prevnar 13 came. They used that Prevnar 9 or 9-valent vaccine in the national program in South Africa in children as 6 weeks, 14 weeks and an early booster in 9 months, and for 6 years follow-up they showed that the efficacy is nearly 98%. But you need to give an early booster.
But sir, you again and again in your talk regarding the seroconversion and OPA titer.
Correct.
So is any study regarding the OPA titer, especially for clinician purpose? So 2 plus 1 versus the 3 plus 1.
So if you are given 2 plus 1 versus 3 plus 1, the OPA and the efficacy is the same provided you are using it in a national program and not in individual practice. Which means you have enough coverage of vaccine in your area.
So that means the coverage is more important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is the
message.
This is the message to the house.
Right.
So when is the coverage in the public perspective, the better schedule is 2:1. We can reach the same efficacy or OPA titer, but in office practice it is still better to use the 3 plus 1.
So let's say 6 years down from today, when the vaccine coverage in India is 85%, like the DPT3 coverage, you may use 2 plus 1 of this, any of these vaccines, it will work.
Yeah.
But
so
till then, no.
And your talk, you again and again about the booster of this one new made in India vaccine. So it is right now is PI, what the PI say and what is the medico legally?
So PI of pneumocil and this vaccine both are showing 3 primary, 6, 10, 14.
Okay.
But they are not talking about booster because the licensing authority has not given them booster. We say we don't need booster in our country because everything is given in the first year.
So
for practical purpose, WHO, for their international, as far as pneumocil is concerned, the international PI shows 3 plus 1 based on the Gambian data.
So for the house, as a medico legally or as a safety or efficacy for our children, so what are your final comments about the booster who are using the B14 vaccine in an office practice?
Correct. So first of all, don't substitute this vaccine for the existing vaccine except for the cost and the parent understand why they're shifting. Number 2, you cannot use this vaccine for the booster till the time with the booster data. If you use the booster, it will be off-label. Gut feeling is it will work because science has shown in toddler naive data it is as good as Prevnar 13. So it's going to work, but you have to tell the parents it is off-label from that point of view. And last thing, when that booster will come data, it will become ACVIP also saying. So today for pneumocil ACVIP saying you can use 3 plus 1. At least some umbrella who tells you to use the booster, that will be better for you to do that time. So till then, suppose you use 3 primary in children today and after 1 year data is still not available, what do? Give booster of Prevnar 13, give booster of Synflorix, give booster of pneumocil, no harm.
Yeah. So the final comments is the continue the same vaccine as you use earlier to your child, but for new child you can use this one, you can use for the cost or the other purpose or the like the make in India vaccine.
No, I'm
like
saying other way also like
better efficacy as the same with cost with PCV13.
no, so
the
if-
cost difference
so if
is also there.
So someone has taken one Prevnar 13 and now
Yeah.
knows that Pneumocil is available or this vaccine is
Yeah.
available, that I have heard a cheaper Indian vaccine is available. Can you give it? Yes, you can do that time knowing that the parents want it. You generally don't change the brand. So you don't interchange brands for vaccine with different valencies.
So we can
you
make-
don't substitute Rotarix for Rotatec, Rotavec for Rotatec, because they are single dose, 2 dose, 3 dose like that. Same way for Prevnar 10, 7, 13, 14, they are different valencies. But if parents want from the cost benefit point of view, scientifically absolutely nothing will happen. In fact, you switching to this vaccine will be better because it will give benefit of 2 more serotypes.
Yeah. So next question to Dr. Alok sir. A child has received the PCV vaccine is 2+1 schedule in government sector, and now come to you at 18 months for his DPT booster. For the same with DPT with the PCV booster. So what is the, should we offer to PCV vaccine?
In office practice, yes.
Already received the 2+1 in government 6, 14 and 9 months.
In office practice, definitely I'll go for a booster.
Dr. Ashish sir?
There is no recommendation to give another dose if the child has received 2+1 in the government sector.
So as Dr. Nitin Shah already mentioned that the 2+1 efficacy point of view, it already the efficacy or seroconversion.
So let me answer the other way. A child has come at 18 months, having taken 2+1 in public health, and hasn't had the breakthrough 6B and 23F. He's escaped, he's lucky. Now there's no point giving another vaccine.
The effectiveness is somewhat lower in first year only.
Yes.
First year there is almost no.
That's why the booster is given at 9 months, because the type 1 and type 5, type 1, type 5 disease peaks at around 15, 16 months.
Okay.
That's why if you are given only 2 primary, then you take a booster early at 9 months.
Okay. The next question to Dr. Ashish, you, a child received the first PCV vaccine at 6 weeks and second at 8 months. So the next dose when to give and booster timing. Yeah, yeah. In our office practice, the first dose at 6 weeks and now comes the child at 8 months. So what is your the next dose and what about the booster?
Total 3 doses. So first dose 6 weeks, second dose we can give now, and third at the time of booster 15 months we can give.
Yeah.
Totally at least 3 doses we have to give including booster.
And in case if the second dose given within 7 months of the first dose, like the 6.5 months, so what is the any difference?
Yes, if the child has received 2 doses before 7 months, then we have to give another dose between 7 to 11 months and the booster at the 15 months.
Yeah, sir.
Correct.
Would you
Yeah,
like
so
to add?
anyone who started a primary series within 6 months should receive 3+1.
Right,
Anyone who started between 6 to 12 months will receive 2+1.
2+1.
And anyone who comes in the second year will receive 2 doses.
2 doses.
That is a standard case.
That is standard. And the question is from Dr. H.D. Sharma, sir. Which schedule is better? 3+1, 6, 10, 14, plus 15 month versus 6, 10, 14, 18 month without like that.
It doesn't matter. The booster is anywhere in the second year of life. Earlier the better. Don't give before 15 months. So you can so you can give MMR varicella at 16 months. It's completely up to you. So you have the DPT based vaccine, you have the MMR varicella and pneumococcal. These 4 vaccine, you give 2 at one time, 2 the next time, depends upon which one you want to give first. Like suppose there is a measles outbreak, mumps outbreak, I would give MMR earlier. If there is nothing like that, so it's anyone's choice. Also depends on the pocket of the patient. Absolutely no. When you give it 15 months, 18 months, 24 months, in fact, later you give better it is. But as I said, you delayed, the breakthrough may happen with one of the serotypes. So that should not happen.
Yeah. So Dr. Ashish, I think you already give the answer. The child received the 2 dose of PCV before 12 months and now come at the 15 month. So how many doses required now for PCV? So only 1 dose. As the sir already mentioned that after 1 year, only 1 dose, right?
If it is received
Primary series. Now, next question to Dr. Alok sir. A child vaccinated with the PCV13 completed schedule. Unfortunately, as sir also mentioned in talk, pneumococcal pneumonia. How do you counsel the parents? And second one, should we repeat the vaccine? Alok sir. Yeah.
Pneumococcal pneumonia occurs. It's not only all the serotypes present in the vaccine can happen with the other serotypes which are not in the vaccine. One is that. And another is the response, immune response of the child makes a lot of difference. A child having a low immune response, low immunity, and he will not respond to the vaccines and vaccine failures also. So that may be the reason. And unless we know which serotype that particular child has, the pneumococcal pneumonia, if it is a vaccine serotype, there is no need to repeat it. But if it is a different serotype, that may be a cause of research also.
Okay.
We'll have to.
So, sir, as sir
So-
mentioned the failure, vaccine failure
Yeah.
serotype. So it is how many percentage of different
So
serotypes?
around 1 to 2% of the vaccinated children can develop a vaccine serotype disease, especially serotype like 19A, which are very aggressive. And that's why if you have done the serotype by doing PCR, and I mean you should do it, a good laboratory when they grow pneumococcus, they will immediately transport one sample to the reference laboratory WHO at Vellore, and they will do free testing for PCR. You know the vaccine, it's vaccine serotype or non-vaccine. If it's non-vaccine serotype, anyway there is no vaccine for that. If it is vaccine serotype, then the parents may ask why it happened. So you may have to see which vaccine he received. Suppose you developed 19A, received synfloric, then you can say it's because of that. Or if it is 19A vaccine and yet 19A, you say the child's immune response not good. So it's difficult to understand and difficult to explain. It's like doing a rota study on stool in a child who has developed severe diarrhea, who had rotavirus vaccine, and if it comes positive, he's going to kill you, saying that you gave me vaccine and yet my child developed. So it's a two-edged sword. So I think scientific study, yes, you should do every pneumococcus serotype, but as far as parents are concerned, just counsel them that there are vaccine failures, no vaccine is 100%. And I think leave it to there instead of trying to discuss too much of science. Especially if vaccine was given by your colleague and you have diagnosed, then the colleague may come in trouble. So.
Yeah, Ashish sir, please. Boss.
You are talking about standard method, but we don't know the vaccine was detected properly or not.
So fortunately these vaccines, the bacterial vaccine which are,
Blaming the vaccine, I mean,
so sir, the killed
Actually, my question
vaccine
is
of
what the-
bacterial origin, they need not that rigorous cold chain. So they are still active and potent even if exposed to even 37 degree for 1 week. So you know generally no one will expose vaccine like that at 37 degree intentionally. So otherwise speaking, suppose your fridge was, yesterday you stopped your clinic and morning you go, you find the fridge was actually shut by someone, what do you do to the vaccine? So vaccine like oral polio vaccine all have to be discarded if the color is changed. If the color is not changed, that means all the vaccines are safe. First use them before buying the new stock.
Yeah, now next question to Alok sir. Yes sir, please.
So oral polio vaccine is the most thermo instable. So if oral polio vaccine did not change the color VVM, that means the exposure was not enough to make any vaccine important. So use that stock fast. Maybe if you are say 20 Prevnar, ask all your colleagues, अरे दो करके सब use कर लो यार, मेरा नहीं तो नुकसान हो जाएगा. I always keep one OPV in my fridge as a VVM, not to use that OPV.
And next question to Alok sir. A 5-year-old child has received vaccine in MR campaign 2 years back at the age of 3 years. Does he need MMR now at the age of 5 years? As he also received already the 2 dose of MMR in office practice in 9 months and 15 months. So that already received the 3 dose, 2 MMR, 1 MR at 3 years. So what now your opinion about the at the age of 5 years?
Basically,
Michael.
the international recommendations are 2 doses of MMR after the age of 12 months. This is a minimum requirement, irrespective of whether they are given whatever doses of MMR or MR in the national program or catch-up schedule or whatever. Because most of the people in office practice
So this child has received the
So-
one dose of MMR at the age of 15 months and one at the age of MR vaccine at the 3 year. But what about Dr. Ashish? You would like to add something?
One dose because we need at least 2 months doses after 1 year.
Okay.
Child receives one MMR before 1 year, and only 15 months has received mumps only. So single dose of mumps after 1 year is received. So now we need another dose of mumps.
So now, sir, would
So
you like to add?
when anyone receives MR in campaign or MR as a outbreak response, that dose is not calculated.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so just
So this is the message to
yeah.
the house.
So suppose child is going to only public health. He is now at 9 months he received an MR. Okay, at 11 months he received another MR because there is a measles outbreak. He will still receive his 15 months MR.
So
That's one. But suppose forget the campaign. Campaign is over more than 4 years back now. Let's talk of MR in public health. Someone received 9 months and 15 months MR in public health. Now has known that there are mumps outbreak. What do? He needs at least 2 mumps containing vaccine beyond 1 year.
1 year.
So he will take one more MMR at least 3 months after the last MR and one more MMR at 5 years. Just to give an example, in USA they give MMR at 1 year and at 5 years. Okay, and there are outbreaks of mumps in heavily vaccinated young adults in some areas of USA. So there they give third MMR during the outbreak to adolescents and young adults.
Yes,
So mumps is very poor antigen. So you need to have at least 2, ideally 3 mumps containing antigen.
Yeah.
And we are very happy that IAP has already said to give 3 MMR. 9 months, 15 months, 5. That's why you don't see breakthrough mumps in children who have received 3 doses.
Sir, you are so smart that you know the next question for us already.
Sorry.
This is the next question to you only. That you are already giving the answer.
Okay, fine.
Next question to you only, sir. The influenza strain change, as you already mentioned in your
Yes.
talk also, in every year, and so does the vaccine also. So
Correct.
there is a minor changes in any significance. If the strain doesn't change, still influenza vaccine to repeat it yearly. And
Yes.
second question, does the repeat vaccination attenuate the effectiveness?
Correct. So remember, the antibody response after any influenza vaccine remains good for 6 to 9 months. By 12 months, the antibody titers recede in more than 40%. That's why the efficacy or benefit will not accrue beyond 1 year, generally. Though there may be some benefit to some up to 2 or 3 years also. In fact, the 2009 pandemic, which happened PH1N1, we started in Pune and then spread all over the world. Those who are more than 60 years, who had a previous H1N1 exposure during their childhood, were partially protected. So it's not all or none, but still it's not as good. So that's why even when the vaccine remains the same, you give it every year.
Okay. So does the repeated influenza vaccination attenuated the effectiveness of this particular vaccine?
No, it will help because if the same vaccine you give 2, 3 times, there will be better response than giving different vaccine different time. By the way, tomorrow at 8:30, there is I'm doing one conclave on influenza. A lot of this question influenza will be discussed. It's online open. I don't know whether your GSK guys have sent you the link here. If not, anyone is interested, please send me on WhatsApp. I'll send you the link. 8:30 night. 8:30 to 9:30. 8:30 to 10 in fact.
Since you're talking about influenza, what is your take on subunit versus split vaccine?
Correct. So in children, subunit and split work the same. But in adults above 50 and especially those who are at risk, the subunit vaccines, split vaccines are better than subunit vaccine. So generally avoid using like that. But in children it doesn't matter. Use any brand, they are all the same. 60 to 65% efficacy against any influenza, around 85% efficacy against severe influenza.
Dr. Ashish, you would like to add?
Study published in Lancet Respiratory Medicine in 2023, and it was a meta-analysis of 46 studies.
Correct.
Around 81 studies.
In USA.
What they have concluded is that so vaccine effectiveness after influenza vaccination, and they have shown that if we give repeated vaccination, the effects attenuates, and it is worse for H3N2.
But that's in adults. Yeah. Now we are talking about children, you need to vaccinate every year.
Yeah, next question to Alok, sir. BCG given most commonly, no scar, what to do?
If it is documented BCG given with no scar, then we can BCG is not needed.
Okay, and it is given by default by subcutaneously. Any change in effectiveness or any data for that?
It will still be effective.
Okay.
It will still be effective. So there is no need to give it intradermal
you would like to add some?
If BC is given and there is no scar, there is a beautiful study published way back in 1997 by Rani et al. And what they did, they took 664 children who were given BCG, and 10% of them they did not develop a scar. Around 60 children they did not develop a scar. And they performed lymphocyte migration inhibition assay on those 60 children, and they showed that 90% of those 10% children they have taken up the BCG.
Taken up.
So, as such, is it not required? But IP says that you repeat the vaccine once, and if it is doesn't develop a scar, leave it. But there are some non-specific effects of BCG vaccine also develops a scar. The under 5 mortality, infant mortality is lesser in children who develops a scar. It has proven in many studies. So, IP says that you repeat once, child has not developed a scar.
So,
Perfect.
sir, is it?
That's the stand.
Yeah. So we will repeat. We will repeat the.
Fitness mode, I think intradermal is the route because the antigen presenting cells they are maximum in the intradermal route. So if you by mistake have given it subcutaneously, child will develop abscess.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time if you give intramuscular surplus, it develops abscess.
So now next question to.
So I have one question. Yes. What if you are given the full vial of BCG intramuscularly, is mistaking it for hepatitis B vaccine at birth?
So I've seen in last 6 months 4 or 5 cases. Abscess have been developed.
Abscess.
We aspirated the
100% of them will develop a cold abscess, but nothing will happen to them. No AKT.
if you send the sample for gene expert, it will be positive.
Yeah.
Don't give AKT.
So
But it is BCG vaccine virus will works bacteria
Attenuate.
positive on the gene expert.
So when you suspect BCGosis in a patient with immunodeficiency like SCID or MSMD, etc., never send a sample from the arm or lymph node at the site where BCG was given. It will always show BCG. Suppose you take a normal child with a BCG lymphadenitis and you send that pus for culture, it will show BCG. That doesn't mean it's BCGosis. BCGosis means dissemination, which means the opposite side or intra-abdominal chest lymph node show BCG, that is BCGosis.
Now, sir, turn to the typhoid conjugate vaccine.
Yes.
Yes, this 7-year-old child developed enteric fever despite having taken the TCV at the age of 2 years. Is extra typhoid conjugate vaccine needed now to prevent in future?
Absolutely, because typhoid doesn't lead to an absolute immunity and immunity wanes, and it's a very quantum based organism where if you have a heavy load of infected material, it can still lead to typhoid in a vaccinated child. So that child needs to be boosted by one more dose 2 to 4 weeks after recovery.
But sir, still the PI said that only the one dose of PCV.
No, PI is not saying that. The IAP is saying that.
IAP
Yes.
said that two.
IAP is following what WHO is saying. WHO says what is for mass. So suppose you're going to introduce typhoid conjugate vaccine in India. You give 1 dose or 2 doses, it makes a difference of 28 million doses. That's an expensive vaccine, right? So you say that if you given 1 dose, the efficacy is 90%, and because there is herd effect with typhoid conjugate vaccine, if you have good coverage, typhoid will disappear from the community.
So
Very important point is that manufacturer is not confident. They are saying you may give one booster.
Correct.
When manufacturer is not confident,
better to give.
I give 2 doses.
So
Second
after
dose
the
is
2 to 4 weeks of
3
the
to
disease over.
That is in a recovery child. But normal child also I give second dose 3 to 5 years after the first dose.
3 to 5 years after the first dose, right? Okay. Now, question to Dr. Alok sir. After administering the PCV vaccine, you notice that the vaccine has passed the expiry date. Very common scenario. So, is it valid dose and medico-legal implications?
So I have one subsequent question before he answers. You noticed it, the parents noticed it.
Always parents.
Parents noticed it because you put the sticker. And which law tells you that you need to put sticker? No law says. Why you put sticker? Don't put sticker. Patient want, then you that time you know the patient is going to ask, you will see and then put. But people have blindly every vaccine sticker, and then suddenly he goes home and he comes back running. My God, you are given expired vaccine. So I don't put sticker unless parents want it. Less than 1%. You have to write the batch number. You don't have to put the sticker. Okay, so I'll ask you one question. Okay, so you have a typhoid child admitted. You are giving ceftriaxone in the morning, evening. Are you putting sticker? He may write to say is expired or no, which batch you use, which dose you use. No.
Sir, it is a
okay,
different
1 minute.
It is a
1 minute. In public health, in your area, 1 minute, sir. Sir, let me complete. Sir, let me complete. In your public health, in your area, they have to put stickers? Then matter ends there. Matter ends there.
So, sir, but this is the real scenario.
नहीं नहीं वो अभी medical legal तो he will say. I am just saying why should you put sticker? That's my
But
question.
सर सामने वाला वो कहते हैं ना कुलीग कर रहा है तो कि सर वो डॉक्टर साहब तो लगाते हैं स्टिकर हम
अरे मैं नहीं लगाता हूँ.
या एनीवे the Dr. Alok sir please
This is what I call putting your head in gelatin.
हाँ सर
Sir, let him answer the question first. Medical legal.
sir yeah please medical legal implication.
See, if it is
Valid dose है कि नहीं पहले?
valid, but it is not a valid dose.
Correct.
If you have detected expired dose. And it is better to commit your mistake.
Yeah.
Do not charge the patient. And repeat after 4 weeks or so. Without charge. You can give it immediately also.
So we can give the immediately or 4 weeks?
No,
after
4
that?
weeks. 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Let's say you have given a
Wait.
suppose you have given infant hexa which has expired last month.
Yeah.
It's still going to work because poison doesn't become more poisonous after the expiry.
Yeah.
No? So if it works, you give another one, it's superfluous. So give after 4 weeks.
4 weeks, right? Yeah, doc. Yeah. एक second.
एक दिन की भी एक्सपायरी होगी ना सर तो आपने देखा नहीं डॉक्टर घंटे के इंजेक्शन से डेथ हो गई 50 25 साल 30 साल पहले मैं पेपरों में पढ़ा
सर एक बच्चे के लिए सबको परेशान नहीं होना चाहिए.
बनाते इंजेक्शन
बराबर है.
सर वो एक डिफरेंट स्टोरी
के इंजेक्शन से डेथ
या
नहीं गंगा ने लेकिन डेथ हुआ उसकी वजह से नहीं लेकिन गंगा ने एक्सपायरी वाला तो प्रोडक्ट यूज किया ना सर.
या उजा बॉस प्लीज
यस सर.
या
The question is regarding the TCV vaccine. Now, this is the IAP recommendation to give TCV vaccine even at the age of 6 months.
Yes, 6 months or onwards.
Actually, to use it as a pan-India policy because many states don't have typhoid as an endemic disease. So, why to use it as early as 6 months when there is a very good chance that the immunity
Correct.
will not be as good?
So typhoid below 1 year is a known entity. The incidence is 1/3 that in an older child. So you cannot neglect it in a child who is on top feeds. In a breastfed child and then given food, it is not going to be a problem because contamination will not happen. But in a child who is on top milk, diluted milk, in the lower strata, it can happen. And we have seen typhoid as early as 4 months. It behaves like sepsis. So at 6 months, the efficacy is shown, immunogenicity is shown. You can use from 6 months of age onwards, no issue. As a pan-India, because it will depend on the government when they introduce typhoid conjugate, what time they will introduce. They can introduce 6 months because there is no vaccination that time in the public health is easier, or at 1 year.
So, they have come down from 9 months to 6 months as the first dose. You may be given.
Correct.
So, like for Rajasthan doesn't have as many typhoid cases at that earlier age.
It doesn't matter. So when, what is your proposition? I didn't understand your question.
My thing is that is there a pressing need to vaccinate a child at 6 months?
No, not, there is no pressing need even 9 months and 1 year also.
Give it at 9 months.
I normally give typhoid conjugate vaccine after 1 year of age. I don't give it before 1 year.
Anuj, you want to ask something?
No. I would completely disagree with that because if the vaccine that you given is going to work, which is going to work, I am telling you, the expiry is actually 1 year after the expiry. Then you are going to give double dose, it will lead to more side effect. What's the hurry?
Sir, only 2-3 question more.
Except meningococcal vaccine, there is no hurry in giving any vaccine.
And next question to you, sir. The child received the MMR 15-month dose on 30th November and the varicella today on 17th December. So which vaccine is counted as a valid or which one is invalid?
So the second is counted as invalid.
Invalid.
Because the first vaccine, viremia, is still happening. It will suppress the immune response to the subsequent vaccine.
Already giving the answer, I think.
No, 1 minute. What is that? I am given. It's a valid dose.
Any MMR vaccine.
Valid.
Valid.
Yes.
All. Yeah. Okay. And all subcutaneous will be given as a valid, right? Subcutaneous. They are invalid.
So any vaccine which is an adjuvant should not be given subcutaneous.
Subcutaneous.
Just a minute, sir, this question. Has been given subcutaneously in the advantage, it is a valid dose? Yeah, of course it is a valid dose.
No.
Because in hemophilic, sir, it is given in.
Yes, but in hemophilic,
In hemophilic.
not in a normal child.
That means it works.
So it works, but not to the extent that it will work in a normal child. We don't have studies on 3 subacute hepatitis B to say it works as good. So in a normal child, you should not do it.
Sir, the last question. When a vaccine vial is new and the cap has been just removed, is the rubber stopper sterile or should we rub with the alcohol swab before inserting the needle? Ashish, sir.
If you open and touched it, it's not sterile.
Okay.
So sterilize it and allow the spirit to go away for 30 seconds. Especially if you give MMR like vaccine, which if the spirit goes, it will inactivate the virus, live virus.
Okay. So is the cleaning of and doctor?
The spirit, what we use the commercial spirit, has got
70.
50% of alcohol.
Right.
You are contaminating it further.
All better to
It is better
not to use that. Any question from house now? Sir.
स्टिकर होता है वो उसमें छेद होता है सर उसमें स्पेस होता है इट शुड बी क्लीन विद प्योर स्पिरिट
Correct.
एंड लेट इट ड्राई
Correct.
दैट इज द वैलिड
Correct.
इट इज नॉट स्टेराइल एट ऑल
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you so much. I think Doctor. Last one.
Okay.
Last one.
I will have one question at the end. You ask your last question.
Sir, demand.
Which vaccine? PCV13. Now there's no PCV13, it's only pneumocil in the public health. Anyone who received 2+1, no need to give another dose. That question was asked.
Yeah, already. Sir, now.
Whether PCV9 or PCV13, if someone has received 2+1, which means 6 weeks, 14 weeks, 9 months, doesn't need any further PCV. So if you want, someone has taken pneumocil in public health, I would give the booster of Prevnar 13 or B's vaccine whenever they have booster data, which will give them the additional benefit of the remaining serotype. Yes. So there is data on Synflorix and Prevnar 13. There is no data on other vaccine combination. So what they did was children who received 6, 10, 14 or 2, 3, 4, whatever the schedule of primary of Synflorix, randomized to receive the booster of Synflorix or booster as Prevnar, and they showed that those who received booster of Prevnar only 1 dose in second year, they had 90% seroconversion for the additional serotype.
Yeah.
So it benefits.
Thank you, sir. Now your turn to ask, but is not.
To say booster in second year is better.
Is definitely better, but even 1 dose is enough for the extra serotype. That's the question.
So that is the message of cost effectivity that gave cheaper vaccine the first year and the first
So that is what many people were doing. That is what many people are doing. But now with this vaccine is the other way. This vaccine has more serotype coverage than Prevnar 13.
Now, sir, your turn to ask, but it's please.
The earlier question, it was a child came with a government schedule of 2+1.
Correct.
It comes to us
At 18 months.
At 18 months.
No vaccine to be given. Neither IPV except the booster of IPV at 15 months and 5 years, nor any PCV. Now they are giving IPV also 3 doses, 6 weeks, 14 weeks and 9 months. So that 9 months is a booster for IPV. The titers are 50% of IM schedule, but seroconversion is 100%.
Seroconversion always.
Yeah, so when someone has received only 6 and 14 weeks, the type 2 seroconversion only in 80%. So it was risk mitigation, not avoidance. But when you give the third dose at 9 months, it's 100%. So any child who received now IPV at 6 weeks, 14 weeks and 9 months, initially after 6 and 14 we are saying give them 1 or 2 extra doses IM, but now we will give them doses only at the boosters.
So is there any difference of the fractional dose of 6 week, 14 weeks, 9 months versus the IM dose of same schedule?
So titers are double with IM. Otherwise seroconversion is the same.
But uptake is because in the fractional dose that they are giving the intradermal.
Seroconversion 100%.
Both.
With 3 doses, not 2 doses. I again repeat, if you take 6 and 14 weeks IPV fractional dose, then for type 2, seroconversion is only 80%. If you take 6 weeks, 14 weeks and 9 months intradermal, at the end of 9 months, for all the 3 serotype, it is 100%. But for the 2 serotype, type 1, type 3, because you are also giving OP with them, only 6 and 14 was enough, but for not for type 2.
Type 2.
And you know 90% of CVD-PB and 40% of VAP are because of type 2. So that's the reason why the government has now introduced a third dose of FIPV at 9 months to make it 100% seroconversion. Titers may not matter in today's time when polio is not existing.
Sir, what about IPV second booster at 5 years?
So we are giving,
Talking about government.
no, so anyone who's taken 6, 10, 14 weeks, when he comes at 15 to 18 months, I will give him IPV containing vaccine and at 5 years also.
Okay, that is right. I'm talking like receive FIPV.
Mhm.
Then at 5 years what will?
Government is not giving anything. You can give booster.
So
Of
the
course you should.
question is
You
that-
should give.
Sir, the question is
should
that
give.
any child who receives the fractional dose of 6 week, 14 week,
Any
9
child-
months, and the child came
No, no,
at the
any
age
child
of
will
5
re-
years,
one
so
minute.
in office practice, so can we give the,
So let me repeat.
this is the
Any,
question. This
let
is the
me
question.
let me clarify. Any child who received 3 intramuscular doses at 6, 10, 14 needs the booster at 15 months and 5 years.
Yes.
Any child who received 3 intradermal doses 6 weeks, 10 weeks and 14 weeks needs the booster at 15 months and 5 years for long-term immune response.
Sir, question is that the fractional dose received the 6 week, 14 weeks, and 9 months as a booster.
correct.
Now come to 5 at the age of 5 years in office practice. So
IPV.
Yes.
Must. Yes.
Then the answer
For
is-
long term.
Yeah.
There are at least 6 to 7 countries
Okay.
which have shown
Thank you
outbreak
so-
of wild polio. Excuse
Thank you
me.
so much.
1 minute, sir.
Yes.
सर मेरा खत्म होने दो. थोड़ा डरा देता हूँ आप लोगों को सर.
HD sir dinner पे.
सर थोड़ा डरा देता हूँ आप लोगों को. थोड़ा डरा देता हूँ.
Sir इधर वाले.
There are 6 countries in the world which have shown resurgence of wild polio after being polio free for 20 years, with adult polio affecting from 10 to 100% of the polio cases. 2005 Namibia, when I was the president, 70 cases all in adults. Tajikistan in 2007, 450 cases, 10% in adults. President Roosevelt himself was an affection of adult polio. So adults can get polio. So that's why more IPV you take, better it is for you. Entire world except USA and developing countries, that means Europe and Asia, gives another IPV as Tdap IPV booster in the second decade of life. So don't shy away from giving more and more IPV.
Thank you so much, panelists. Sir,
हाँ sir.
What is the recommendation of IAP for yours for conjugate typhoid vaccine, single or
So IAP is single, I am 2 doses. That's the only difference I have with Dr. Kasi. Perfect.
sir, yeah. Thank you so much, panelists, for a wonderful discussion. Just wait, it is time to felicitate. Over to Dr. Manish, please.
Thank you, our panelists, for a wonderful discussion. I'm sure there will be many more questions, so you can take full advantage of Dr. Shah at the dinner time. May I request Dr. Kamdar sir to kindly give a token of love and appreciation to Dr. Nitin Shah. Thank you, sir, but we are not going to leave you. We'll continue with your discussion until dinner time also. I request Dr. Sanjeev Gupta sir to kindly felicitate Dr. Alok Gupta sir. Dr. Pathan sir. Pathan sir. Dr. Pathan sir to kindly felicitate Ashish boss. Mohit. So, Dr. Mohit, kindly give a vote of thanks and we proceed for dinner.
Thank you, Nitin sir. I think जब भी कोई vaccine आती है, I think all pediatricians look at you in India to endorse. If you endorse, then only. so sir is a Dian of I think vaccines. I must say that. जैसे politics में मोदी जी को देखा जाता है, vaccination में नितिन सर को देखा जाता है. So big round of applause for him. Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.